Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Qala rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amma ba'du. Okay. Inshallah today we will continue our discussion about the al-masalih al-mursalah, unregulated interest in Islamic finance. Inshallah. Right. So, we will talking about the masalihul mursalah. The actual meaning of maslahah. Maslahah, we always heard about maslahah, which is in bahasa Melayu we call it maslahat. Maslahat, faedah, kepentingan. Maslahah literally means benefits or interest. And Al-Ghazali also said maslahah, something that preserves the benefits and prevents the harm, as well as the same time in line with Sharia objective. That is the meaning of al-maslahah. It's something that preserve the benefits, and at the same time the benefit must be in line with the Sharia objective, or prevent something that might be harmful for somebody, and at the same time must be in line with the Sharia objective. That is the meaning of maslahah. Right? So we can categorize the maslahah into three categories. Which first is we call it maslahah mu'tabarah. Maslahah mu'tabarah. And the second one is maslahah mulghah. And the third one is maslahah mursalah. And validated interest, unregulated interest, and cancelled interest. Mulgha, which means ilgha, from Arabic language, Arabic words, which mean batal, cancel. Mu'tabarah mean validated. We will talking after this about each of this category. So the maslahah mu'tabarah, which mean validated interest. What it is actually, an interest that recognized by the Al-Quran and the As-Sunnah, and there is evidence which ordered the preservation of such interest. For example, the interest to protect religion, life, intellect, property, and progeny, which is honor. The five Sharia objective. Five Sharia objective. So actually the mu'tabarah means i'tibar, which is validate. By who? By the Al-Quran. Which means such interest is recognized by Al-Quran. There is an verse in Al-Quran, or there is a prophet saying that order us to protect such interests. For example, in the Al-Quran, Al-Quran command the preservation of language, such as Allah said, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. So this ayah means, and those who do not judge by what Allah has revealed are truly disbelievers. So this ayah, this verse, this particular verse ordered us to protect the interest of religion. So the mu'tabarah, which means the validated interest, validate there is the particular verse in the Al-Quran or in the Hadith, which solely command us to protect, to preserve that particular interest, such as if we're talking about the preservation of intellect, and also the preservation of life. So Allah ordered us to protect our life. There's so many verses in the Quran and so many prophet sayings in the Hadith that ordered us to preserve and to protect that interest. That is mu'tabarah, maslahah mu'tabarah, validated interest. So the second one is, and also in the second ayah, Al-Quran command us to preserve the intellect, the property, and the faith. There is al-ayah, particular ayah that command that to us. For example, إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون. Intoxicant, gambling, idle, and drawing lot of delusion are all evil of Satan's handiwork. So shun them so you may be successful. So this ayah directly ordered us to protect our intellect by prevent the khabar, prevent the intoxicant, and also this ayah ordered us to protect our property by preventing gambling, so to protect our property, and also to protect our religion by preventing al-ansab, drawing lot of delusion, which is will affect our faith, which is our religion. So there is a particular ayah that relate to that preservation of interest. So the second one is Maslahah mulghah, which is cancelled interest. That is an interest that revoked by the Al-Quran and Sunnah. That there is evidence which argument either from the Al-Quran and from Hadith that ordered the cancellation of such interest. For example, the prohibition of usury, even though its interest exists to the money's owner, as time should be equals to money, but such interest is not recognized and cancelled by the Shara. The Al-Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. God has allowed trade and forbidden usury. Forbidden usury. Even though if we have money, instead of we give to someone as borrow, it's better for us to put it in unit trust, so then we can get some profit from our capital. And instead of we borrow our money to other person, at the end we get nothing, because time equals money. So the someone which borrow money from us should pay us the interest, because it is our interest. We entitled to such surplus from our capital, because instead of we give it to him as a borrow, we should put it in the unit trust. At the end, we get some profit, because time equals money. But this interest is cancelled by the Quran, and there is evidence, which there is al-ayah, which there is a prophet saying that prevent us from take care, from preserve that such interest. That is what's meant by mulghah, cancel interest. So the third is what we are actually discussing in this topic, which is Mursalah, Maslahah, Mursalah, and regulated interest. What it is? An interest that silenced by the Al-Quran and As-Sunnah, and there is no evidence as whether it should be preserved or cancelled. The Mursalah was placed in between the Maslahah Mu'tabarah and Maslahah Mulghah. Mu'tabarah, there is evidence to preserve that such interest. And Mulghah, there is also evidence prevent such interest. But Mursalah was placed in between because there is no evidence, there is no ayah, there is no verses, there is no prophet saying. We don't know whether that particular maslahah need to be preserved or that need to be cancelled because there is no evidence. That's why it was put in between. For example, what's including in the Maslahah Mursalah, the compilation of Al-Quran during the time of Khalifah Abu Bakar. So during the life of the Prophet, many part of the written Quran was scattered among his companions, retained as private possession. However, about 360 Hufaz who Muslim who had memorized the Al-Quran died at the Battle of Yamamah. Consequently, upon the insistence of his future successor, Umar, Abu Bakr ordered the collection of all surviving pieces written in papyrus, palm, stock, etc. of the Quran into one copy, and the rest were burned. That's in the time of the prophets. After the time of the prophet, so Abu Bakr ordered the compilation of Al-Quran, which was not done at the time of the prophets. So the work of compilation of the Quran is something the interest that was not mentioned in the Al-Quran, whether to preserve it or to prevent that such interest. Actually, at the initially, Abu Bakr don't want to follow Omar's suggestion because Abu Bakr thought that why the prophets not doing it at his time. Even he has the chance to compile the Al-Quran, but the prophet has not done it. So why we should do it now? Initially, Abu Bakr said that. So after Omar advised him and insist to do the compilation, and Abu Bakr do discussion with the other Sahabi, and in the end they agree to compile the Quran in a single volume. So the second example, imposing a death penalty on a group of people who are involved in killing a person. It is in the qisas. In the qisas. In the qisas, eye for the eye, soul for the soul, hand for the hand, one for the one. But what happened if a group of people, for example, 5 people was involved to killing one person? Do we need to kill all the 5 people in order to bring justice to one people? So, initially, the justice must be done equally, and one for one. But in this condition, in this situation, whereas 5 people involved in killing one person, there is no ayah, there is no verse in the Quran or Prophet saying that ordered to protect the maslahah of qiyas. So there is also no evidence whether to prevent such killing of 5%. So That's Maslahah al-Mursalah. So Abu Umar radhiyallahu anhu, Sahabi Umar radhiyallahu anhu, decided to kill all of that 5 people that involved in killing one, to preserve the interest of qisas, to preserve the justice. If it was not done, then uh, one person will be killed, and then the rest of all person will be released. So justice is not be upheld. So justice must be upheld by killing all those involved in that killing. So the argument of Maslahah al-Mursalah, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. The Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and we have not sent you, Muhammad, except as a mercy to the world. So Deen in this ayah shows us that Deen of Islam is not to bring hardship for human being, because Rasulullah SAW came to us, came to the world to give mercy to us, to the universe. Yeah, and also Aisha reported the Prophet did not choose but the easier of two alternatives, as long as it did not amount to any sin. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam have to choose between two things, he will choose the easier one. That's mean al-masalihul mursalah, when it is for the benefit of people, for the interest of people. So Rasulullah SAW always preserve such interest. So we also can look at the practice of Maslahah in the era of Sahabi. Abu Bakr compiled Al-Quran in a single volume. He also in other situation, he nominated Umar radiallahu anhu as a caliph, succeed him before the appointment of caliph was done by Bashura, by the discussion, by the agreement between Kibar Sahabi, between the majority of Sahaba. But in the Abu Bakr times, he seen that there is a interest, there is maslahah to him to solely nominate Omar as his succeed. And also Omar suspended execution of the prescribed punishment for theft during the year of famine. They execute qisas on a group that killed one. So we just talked about this. So in the year of famine, so Umar radiallahu anhu stopped, paused the execution of for the thief. Actually, before and the regular situation, the thief should be cut off his hand, but because of the maslahah, there is an interest in maslahah in the of famine, then Umar radiallahu anhu stopped the execution until the end of that period. And Ali radiallahu anhu held craftsmen and traders responsible for the loss of goods that were placed in their custody. Initially, before that, originally, craftsmen and traders are not held responsible for the loss of goods, because they are in they act as a general service provider. So general service provider are not a domin, domin, which means penjamin, penjamin. So they are not a domin. But Ali see that at his time, the people cannot be trusted anymore. So many people stealing, so many people lying. There is not trust in the society. So then Ali radiallahu anhu at his time held responsible on craftsmen and traders. So they should protect goods of their customer. Otherwise, they should pay for the compensation from their negligence. So then the condition for the validity for the validity of maslahah. So in order for us to use maslahah, if we want to say this is haram, this is halal, this is makruh, so whatever, so there must be term and condition. We cannot simply use maslahah in order to permissible all of things. Also, we cannot refer to the maslahah mursalah simply that this is haram. We want to prevent something, then we say this is haram. Simply by saying this is maslahah, then there must be a condition and terms in order for us to use maslahah mursalah. The first one is the maslahah must be genuine, not imaginary, which is we have strong prediction that if we do not do it, then it will bring harm to us. So the harm must be genuine, a reality. It's not just small assumption that might happen or might not happen. It must be strong prediction. If we don't do this, we will face it first, the problem. So the maslahah must be genuine, must be real, not just imaginary, just delusions, something like that. So second one, the maslahah intend to preserve the Sharia objective. If we want to use maslahah al-mursalah, so the interest that we protect must intend to preserve the Sharia objective, whether to protect the religion, to protect the life, to protect the intellect, protect property, or to protect the progeny. So the protection comes in different levels. It may come from the level of primary needs, daruriyah. Daruriyah means if we don't do it, then we will be perish. We will perish if we don't do it. That is primary needs. Hajat is secondary needs, which something if we not do it, it might our life will be harder. Our life will be harder. So the hajiyat, secondary needs, is something that make our life easy. Our life easy. So that is primary needs. So you must differentiate between primary need and secondary needs. And hajiyat, and the third is tahsiniyat, is luxury needs. Luxury needs. I mean, if we don't have it, our life will continue as before. Nothing will happen. But if we have that particular interest, it will make our life more beautiful. It will. I'll give you an example. If you don't eat rice or bread, you might die. So that is a primary need. So you need to eat something in order to sustain your life. That is primary need, daruriyah. The hajiyat need. We we need rice with maybe some chicken, maybe some fish to complete that dish. So we can solely eat rice, but our life will be very hard to eat rice every day. If we have some chicken, so our life will be more easier. So the rice is come to complete our dish. So the luxury need is maybe ice cream, dessert. That even we being eating maybe for 1 month, 1 year, we have no problem if we don't have dessert in our meal. But if we have those dessert, it is a bonus for us. That is what I mean by luxury need. So you must differentiate what's considered as the primary need, secondary need, and the luxury need. So the Maslahah Mursalah must preserve 5 uh, Sharia objective and must follow certain level. Right? We must follow certain level. So we should take precedence over the daruriyat from hajiyat. Take precedence hajiyat over tahsiniyat. So we must precedence daruriyat from hajiyat. Precedence hajiyat from tahsiniyat. We just cannot simply take the tahsiniyat, but at the same time we damage the daruriyat or the hajiyat. So we must follow the level. The second condition is not in conflict with the major principle of Islam or clear text of Al-Quran and As-Sunnah. When the Maslahah Mursalah can only be used when there is no Al-Quran, no evidence from Al-Quran and Sunnah for that particular interest, whether to preserve or to prevent that such interest. So it must also no conflict with major principle of Islam. For example, major example of Islam, the Salah. Salah is major principle of Islam. Everybody was ordered to perform praying. For example, paying zakah. 5 pillars of Islam is the major principle of Islam. So it should not go against that principle of Islam. The khamar, the intoxicant. Everybody knows about the haram of intoxicant, and also the haram of the zina. So that is the major principle of Islam. So in preserve the maslahah, it cannot go against those principles, those major principles. And the fourth, not used in establishing the innovational matters. Innovational matters, which mean ibadah. Because ibadah, if you are remember, the originality of ibadah is haram. Unless it must be based on evidence. Salah is haram unless what is Allah ordered us, Allah command us. Allah command us 5 times a day. So who wants to add one more in those salah fardu, it is not been allowed. It's prohibited. So Maslahah Mursalah can be used in our life, in muamalah, except from something that involved in the ibadah. Ibadah you cannot use Maslahah Mursalah. You just simply this particular ibadah is wajib because of maslahah. You cannot prevent this ibadah because of maslahah. The ibadah must be built on evidence because the originality of ibadah is haram. So if you want to wajib the certain type of ibadah, it must be based on evidence from the Al-Quran and As-Sunnah. Other than ibadah, you can use al-maslahah, al-mursal. So the fifth condition is general interest should take precedence over private interest. If the general interest go against the private interest, so the general interest will be precedence from the private interest. We cannot preserve private interest at the same time we destroy the general interest. It cannot be like that. It must follow the level. The general interest comes first, and then we can preserve the private interest. Right? So that is basically what is Maslahah al-Mursalah. So in order for us to use the Maslahah Mursalah in Islamic finance, there are few legal maxim built on the Maslahah. The first is al-mashaqqah tajibu taysir. Hardship shall bring elevation. Al-maysur la yaskutu bil ma'sur. What cannot be performed entirely should not be abandoned entirely. Al-darurat tubihu al-mahdhurat. Necessity permit prohibited matters. Al-darurah taqaddar biqadariha. The necessity is limited by its needs. Al-hajah tadlilu manzilat al-darurah. General needs or individual needs are treated like the necessity. So there is a few legal maxim related to the Maslahah al-Mursalah. I'll give you an example. What's actually Maslahah al-Mursalah among the source of Islamic jurisprudence used in Islamic finance. The major source of Islamic jurisprudence, because for Islamic finance world running very fast, so they are changing very fast. Today they will be like this. Tomorrow they change to others. So the changes very fast happening in the Islamic finance world. So we don't have enough evidence. We don't have enough evidence to cover all the changes. So that's why the Maslahah al-Mursalah are being using in so many places in the Islamic finance. So I'll give you an example. For example, in the case of ASB unit trust, So ASB unit trust, Suruhanjaya SC, Suruhanjaya Malaysia states that ASB unit trust is not Sharia compliance. It's not Sharia compliance. But the Majlis Fatwa Kebangsaan Malaysia say, even though it is not Sharia compliant, it is permissible for Muslim to buy the unit. Something is not Sharia compliant, but being allowed by Majlis Fatwa Kebangsaan. Why that's happened? So in the ASB, 70% of its share are Sharia-based compliant, but the remains of 30% is not Sharia compliance. So among 30% is not Sharia compliant is the bank shares. If I'm not mistaken, capital from the ASB was used to establish bank. So very clear there is a riba in ASB. How can Majlis Fatwa Kebangsaan say riba is halal? Riba is halal. Very clear. So when we're talking about the condition about Maslahah, it should not in conflict with major principle. So the prohibition of riba is major principle of Islam. Everybody knows riba is haram, prohibited. So how can Majlis Fatwa Kebangsaan say ASB is halal, invisible, even though clear cut there is a bank in that unit? So we interview. I personally interview the chairman of the Majlis Fatwa Kebangsaan, the ex-chairman now, Tan Sri Syukur. He said to us, to our group, even though Bank is in the ASB, Bank in the ASB capitals, but he said we allow Muslim to buy ASB unit trust based solely on the Maslahah. We don't have any evidence from the Quran, from the Sunnah. We only can say that it is permissible for Muslim to buy based on the Maslahah. Why? Because the Maybank capital are so huge, very big capital, around 200 billions Maybank capitals. If we take out that huge capital from ASB, we take out 200 billion, who has the capability to manage such big capital and don't lose it? Our Islamic banking still not have the capability to manage such capital. They might have abilities to manage around 10 billion, 20 billion. They maybe have, but 200 billions, they don't have that such capability. If we take out from the bank or the SB, so the money will lose. So we have destroyed, we have damaged the maqasid of property. Mentioned to preserve the property of Bumiputra will be perished. So because of that, we don't have any other choice but to say it is allowed for Muslim to buy the ASB in order to protect the interest of property of Bumiputra. We not do it, then we will damage the objective, Sharia objective, to preserve the property. Right? So you you can see how significant Maslahah Mursalah, the role of Maslahah Mursalah uh, are being played in the Islamic finance world. So, I will give each of you a maxim, elegant maxim. So you have two things to do. The first, you have to explain the source of authority, the dalil of the maxim. So, for example, we for the maxim, al-mashaqqah tajlibul tashfir, hardship shall bring elevation. On which dalil, on which evidence the maxim was built on. So you must find out on what evidence the maxim was built. And the second, give an application of Islamic finance built on the maxim. So you must search on what application the particular maxim was used in Islamic finance. So you have two things to mention in your answer: to explain the source of authority and to give the application of Islamic finance as what you have done in the previous topic when you will give the application from the Maxim, and also this is also the similar work to do. On top of that, you also need to explain the source of authority of the Maxim. So I divided. We have 4 Maxim and divided to 7 people. So the first Maxim we will goes to Shamira and Izzuddin. The second Maxim goes to Siti Nur Balqis and Daki. Third Maxim Hamad. Fourth Maxim Putri Nur Balqis. Fifth Maxim Munish Warren. So in the one and first Maxim, so each of you, Nur Shamira and Izzuddin, each of you will give the sources and the application. Yeah. All right. That is for today. Alhamdulillah. I hope, inshallah, we will see in the next class next week, inshallah. Alaikum bil khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.